WesWes show.
All right, Title for Lover, welcome back to another episode of the Counter Ruck. Welcome back to the host of welcome back to 135 Footy Show. Oh, this guy's taking over my show. The host of the Counter Ruck. Welcome, Stace. How's it going, Us?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother, and thanks for plugging my podcast too. Take care.
Yeah, actually, yeah, man, you guys coming up to the World Cup, so I guess you guys got some plans. Gonna run a pod.
Yeah, we're going to try to get an episode out this week, just a World Cup preview and get some thoughts from the boys, some analysis around the pool stages. That's where we'll be starting, and just get some predictions around who we think's going to win and standout players and that sort of stuff. So, just anyone who's out there, just keep listening. Should be some interesting stuff.
Nice, Us. When's the kickoff? When is the actual World Cup?
I think next weekend.
Oh, really?
Is the official date here. So it's coming. It's looming. It's about what's about 10 days away. So
Oh,
like literally that
oh
close.
wow. Okay,
So we're
there's
gonna get
no
our preview out this
not
week.
much
And
buzz yet. Then that's
hmm.
oh wow. I thought it was gonna be like after the finals for the NRL.
Nah. So you got to TV time is going to be pretty full on for sports fans over the next sort of month or so. So especially if the Warriors continue to go good. So be good for
Oh
us New
shucks, yes.
Zealanders.
I'm surprised the hype's not more, especially that close.
Yeah, rugby's a lot behind other sports in the NRL and a lot of other sports, and their marketing team needs to up their game because I'm with you. It sort of snuck up on a lot of people. So,
Yeah. Like
mm,
everyone kind of knew this was the year, and kind of especially with the game on the what was the weekend just went was like another warm up game, so it's like pretty close to the actual start to be
yeah, for
having
sure.
kind of a game like that. All right. Anyway, mate, back onto my game. Cool, man. Shucks. Last round of the NRL. Some of the games are very much dead rubbers, but man, there's some good ones, and right down to so probably credit to again to the NRL guys getting their schedule sorted. And some of these games this week are going to be quite important. We'll kick off first and talk about the game tomorrow night, the Broncos Storm. Broncos sitting at first. Awesome chance for them to become minor premiers. But they're resting a lot of players. Your thoughts on them resting these players, man?
Yeah, interesting. The first against fourth, so normally this should be quite the blockbuster. But like you said, both sides resting their guns before the final, so it's not quite the big blockbuster game that it should be. I think Simon mentioned in our group chat that Melbourne have basically got their number and have won something like 13 in a row against the Bronx. So every team has that bogey team, and the Storm, they just seem to be that team for the Bronx. So that hoodoo is looming over them. And yeah, I'm not sure about the resting. I wonder if the Bronx could have tried to jag a win here just to settle themselves from that hoodoo. Also, you keep in mind they've had two buys in the past 10 weeks. So I'm not sure about the health of the players. Simon's our Broncos expert. He could probably comment more about that if he was here. But if they're carrying niggles, then cool, rest them. But I wouldn't just be resting them for the sake of resting them for the finals because they've had two buys, like I mentioned.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it would have been a good opportunity just for them to get that win the minor premiership, and break that losing streak. And but they're top of the table at the moment. They've earned the right to give their players a rest, I guess, after a strong season. So interesting thoughts there. What have you made of that game and the rest?
Yeah. It's an interesting approach from the Broncos. Like you're saying, to break that hoodoo. Like so, they haven't been in the Storms. They've only been in them 3 times since 2009. That's a long run and like a massive hoodoo that can play on players' minds. Yeah, I guess both teams is kind of like there's a lot of players out. Still a lot of decent players there in the team.
Mm,
Peppenhausen starting as well.
yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, I thought for just for their own yeah to kind of get that monkey off their back going into the finals. The other thing too, they kind of win this game, they potentially end up facing the Storm again anyway. So
Yeah, right.
if they win this, they go through, and then they have to do it all again in the first week of finals. They lose it, same diff. If Storm win and the Warriors drop their game, then they could face them again and have two. Especially if they can't shake that hoodoo and go into a finals off the back of a loss. I think that's going to play a lot of mind games on them. So anyone's to lose, especially yeah, I guess they've had some injuries. That game last week, they got through without Reynolds again. So um, I guess they've kind of proven that they can do that. They've seen a lot of weeks without Reynolds, and they've got other stars in their team that can step up. Um, yeah, is it the Broncos' season?
I'm not sure. I think we'll get a lot out of this game as well because, like you said, that hoodoo, that's one thing that's looming over them. I think that they believe they can beat every other team in that top eight. But just psychologically, I think the Storm have got them. And that's the only thing that would be good for them to get that win, like you said, this week, just to get their monkey off the back. So this is going to be interesting. I think the Bronx are up there. I still got the Panthers probably as the number one team, but the Bronx, man, they're just a touch behind, eh? So I expect both of them at least to have quite deep runs in the Bronx to have another continue on their good form there. Reece Walsh, he carved up last week, and he's been a difference maker for them. So yeah, as long as they can they've got some crucial guys there. So if they can keep them healthy, I think Reynolds will be back by the playoffs, and Carrigan as well. So I think that they'll be hoping they can get through this game unscathed as well, which is probably a big reason why they're resting a lot of their guys. And no one remembers that you got the monkey off your back if you get knocked out in straight sets in the playoffs because you got injured players. So I
Yeah, that's true.
suppose from that perspective, they're probably making the right call. 200,000 for winning the minor premiership, I will add. So they are potentially foregoing that $200,000. Not that the Bronx need it because they're one of the richest clubs around, but still, there's nothing to be sneezed at. And clubs don't normally care a lot for the minor premiership, and neither do the fans. But just another sort of interesting side fact that they might have considered there.
Interesting mindset too. I guess that's also maybe not a snub to the minor premiership, but I guess maybe where their heads are at as well. Like they know what the goal is. The Warriors kind of say the same as well. As much as everyone's celebrating, you see internally a lot of the players are saying we haven't done anything yet. So potentially, maybe the Broncos on that same page that, but like you're saying, no one remembers the minor premiers. Everyone remembers the winners. So that could kind of sway for their side. Who are you picking for this?
I'm picking the Storm just on that hoodoo factor. I think they're both quite evenly matched. Just the Storm seem for whatever reason to have them covered. So until they break it, I'm just going to keep going with that. So yeah, I'm going the Storm. It'll be a close game, and quite hard to get a prediction when there's so many players out. We don't know how a lot of these other rookies are going to go, but yeah, I've just gone the Storm in a close one just for the hoodoo. How about you? Have you seen that one?
Yeah. Like just with the fact of the hoodoo, with all the players out, I think Storm got a bit more to play for. Pappenhausen back in there, so playing, starting aside for this grade, I think is huge for him. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for Storm as well on this.
Ooh, it's going to be interesting because that's going to have implications for the ladder predictor later on, which we might go
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
We'll have a look at
that's
that.
interesting. Yeah,
All right. The next game, the Friday night game, two disappointing teams: the Sea Eagles and West Tigers. Um, Man, yeah. Cherry Evans last week though.
mate,
Uh,
he was awesome.
yeah. For a team, yeah, that's probably yeah. They really need to figure out what they do without Turbo because man, this is yeah. I guess you look at what Reese Walsh can do with that Broncos team. Um, I guess they're a bit more well-rounded. That's the only thing with the Broncos. Reynolds really dictates that team. Cherry Evans has taken a lot of ownership on the Manly team. I think as the captain and the playmaker, it's kind of like Turbo's the guy that does everything. So yeah, I think yeah, Cherry Evans has really stepped up.
Yeah,
But do you think it's a failure of Manly where they sit at the moment and where they've ended up this year?
Yeah, it's tough, eh? Like you say, Turbo's so crucial to their team success. And he's one of the. There's not many people who have as much influence over a result as he does. So you think if he was played the whole season and he was injury free, now he would have won them a couple of those close games and he would have been a difference maker. And then they finish what I've got them finishing 10th. Not that far outside the eight. So um, they would have only been one or two wins out there, and I think Turbo could have got them over the line to get them in eight, just to turn a couple of those losses or that draw into a win. So I don't know if I'd say disappointing. I think that it's probably a fair result of them without Turbo as sort of potentially coming bottom half of the eight or outside the eight. So I think that's where they're at. But DCE, yeah, you're right. He was a difference maker. And if you compare the Seagulls to say the Bronx and the Storm and that, like if Reynolds is a bit quiet, you can trust that Reece Walsh can win the game for you.
Yeah, yeah,
And they've always got there's sort of like that two pronged attack. And even with the Storm, they've got Munster and Hughes and Panthers have got they've got Luai and Cleary. So the Seagulls, if it's all on Cherry Evans now that Turbo's gone down,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he can't have a day, he can't have a quiet game because there's no one else who's going to win them the game for them, and that's where they really miss Turbo. So um, yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, good game, Seagulls Tigers. Sorry, got a bit off there.
No, no,
This
that's
game,
good. Yeah,
it's
no, yeah.
Jake's 200th game I'll add as well, so that's another good thing there
Oh, Gerbo.
for them. Might get up for that. Oh, one thing I will say, like they put that guy Kohler at fullback last week.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, he looked really good there. Now, obviously, he's carving up the dogs, which has been quite easy for a
I
lot of
think he
teams.
came and covered Turbo when he first came on the scene from
Hmm.
fullback. And so I think, yeah, it was interesting just to see him like now that he's had so much games under his belt, just that confidence. Yeah, he seemed a lot more comfortable back there.
Yeah, he looked good. He's
Um,
getting another opportunity this week, and I wonder. I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, had a theory, because Turbo, his body keeps breaking down, that if they
hmm
could put Cole at fullback and play Turbo in the centres for a little bit next year, just to
Oh, yeah.
manage his body through it, and then sort of play him at fullback for a bit of games and a couple of games at centre, Turbo, just to sort of keep him in the season keep him playing throughout the season because I don't think his body can handle
So
the
yeah,
workload of
the
fullback week in week
fullback.
out. So,
Mm.
and I think you
Well,
could
yeah, and it's
potentially do
probably a
that if
smart
Kohler's
play.
good enough. Yeah, now that you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
trust Kohler. Mm.
because then you can play almost like a two fullback, both sides of the ruck, and then you can also
Yeah,
yeah, I guess yeah, playing that role, kind of like Joey Manu, having him at centre. So if he is feeling, having a day, he's just closer and gets, he'll just get more touches. So, who are they bringing in? So is Luke Brooks confirmed to be with Manly next year?
yeah. Luke Brooks is signed in for next year. I think that means that Schuster's going to be playing on the edge there.
Yeah,
So
he'll just be playing it.
a few shake-ups there. It's going to be interesting how that
Mm.
unfolds. But
Yeah, it's a
the way
good
that
coaching
Schuster's
job, I
played,
think. Yeah.
I think Brooks might be a bit of an upgrade on Schuster, unfortunately, because he's got all the potential in the world, but he just hasn't been consistent enough. But yeah,
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Oh no, look, I was going to say for Brooksy, but he's not even playing. He's still out. So
mm,
I was going to say it would have been a good chance for him to just play against him before he moves. But um, yeah. So the Tigers lose Luke Brooks. I guess they're already looking forward to the rebuild. Um, yeah, I don't know what happens to the Tigers. They lose Dane Laurie as well, just as he's starting to look okay. Um,
yeah,
Uppies look good at halfback, but do you think that's a permanent switch, or they're waiting till they find their proper halfback?
yeah. It's tough. With Brooks leaving, he's their best seven and their best nine piece. So if you
Yeah,
could clone him, that'd be good. But I'm not sure who they're gonna get. I know they've signed. Oh, they've got Aiden Caesar coming in, I believe,
ah, that's right.
from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Super League. So I think he'll be playing in the halves. Adam Dewey will hopefully be back from his injury, ACL next year, and he's a decent 5'8", so that will allow Uppy to play hooker again. Mm.
All right, who you going on this one, man?
Yeah, This is one of the only games that's not going to make any difference to the top eight. So I don't even know if I'll watch it, but I think the Seagulls are the better team. Just on paper. And Cherry Evans, we talked about him earlier. He's been the difference maker for them, and I think he'll be the difference again. So I'll go the Seagulls. Probably, yeah, Seagulls by 6. I'll say.
Nice. Yeah, I'm picking the Seagulls. I think yeah, as a send off to their fans at Four Pines as well. Yeah, they'll probably have a good one just to kind of finish out their season. Try and give back to the fans. So that should be yeah, like you're saying, doesn't make much impact to the result. I guess for the two teams trying to finish out the season. Um, so yeah, I think Manly's probably got more to play for it. In front of their home crowd. All right, the second game of that Friday. Probably the most yeah, the one everyone's probably going to be wanting to watch. These guys aren't resting anyone except for guys that have been suspended and injured. The Roosters Rabbits game, um, must win for both of these guys. Um, yeah, your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. They've got the old book of feuds about these two teams. So I know that I remember these two teams. I think they played last year to finish the round. They finished the regular season, and I think there was like 5 yellow cards or something ridiculous like that, such as that rivalry between the two sides. But and if you add in that possibility, that this could decide who's in and out of the playoffs,
Yeah.
and this could be another one of those powder keg type games. So I think the Roosters they've lost Joey Manu. I think he's got a calf strain. Whitey Hargraves has been confirmed to be suspended essentially for the rest of the season, however far they get. And yeah, those two guys, those are two of their better guys. I'll just take the Rabbits on those two guys being out. So I think that Rabbitohs to get the win. And based on that, on my ladder predictor, yeah, I've got the Rabbitohs moving into the top 8 on the back of that. So
Rabbits.
I'm taking
All right,
Rabbits in
okay.
that one.
Nah, yeah. Man, Luke Walker, Sam Walker. Sorry, I don't know if there was a lot of pressure put on him and kind of the reason that he got dropped, but man, he looked good on the weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Um, I think that's yeah, I think they've just been going so well, but I think, like you're saying, this kind of match is that kind of with the yellow cards from last year. Yeah, maybe that's part of the reason they stood Jared Ware Hargraves down. Um, 7 game ban though, that's huge. In the bigger scheme of things. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? So the 7 weeks for the two incidents last week.
It seems excessive, 7 weeks, that's a lot. But I don't know. He's got a history of. I think he's had at least a couple of. He's good for at least a couple of weeks every season, or feels like. Jared White-Hargraves. So yeah, unfortunate for him. I think he's on like 298 games or something like that. So he
Oh
was hoping
man.
to get his 300th soon. He's gonna have to postpone it. They've got Vegas. They're in Vegas next year. I think he's gonna miss that.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I think it's. I saw that both of those incidents. I thought the headbutt was a little bit not much in it, but that clothesline on Uppy, whatever he got for that, I thought that was fair. Yeah. Well, what did you make of those suspensions?
Yeah, I think they if it was anyone else, I think yeah, it'll be overboard. Um, yeah, I guess that's the problem, like how they do that. What? Yeah, maybe that's the point of it is that you get that loading because you are known for it, and you've got to learn. Like you can't just keep playing like. Yeah, I guess that's the only level he plays at, but I guess it comes down to just detail, just him, making sure he's getting those right. Like when he gets them right, they come off and make a big difference in a game. But um, yeah, I guess a reflection of their season too. Like that's the thing. They had that game as the Tigers, and there was no reason to be playing like that. So I think that's the other thing is, what, in the bigger scheme of things, is similar to what happened to Parramatta. When players are just doing silly things that let down the rest of the team. So he could be crucial on that on Friday night. But I'm actually picking the Roosters. Swali's look so good at the moment, and they've pretty much got both their halves there as well. Um, I think Rabbits probably would have been up with everything else going on outside of the game, but I think Latrell's going to be a huge miss there on the weekend. I think he would have got up for this. Um, I think it's potentially a game that he could have been a game changer. I don't think they're going to get the chance to use Latrell though. I think I'm saying the Roosters are going to pip this, and unfortunately, yeah, Latrell's actually not going to get another chance to shine this year. So yeah, I think this would have been one of those ones where Latrell could have really just flipped the headlines, but the fact that he's not even there, um, yeah, again, unfortunately, these teams like the fact that they're two huge teams in the biggest scheme of NRL to be at this position, um, real interesting. Um, in terms of that, yeah, I think we'll go to the next game because I think that was probably one of my other points is just the teams being able to get the rubber green and what that makes for the season. The Warriors against the Dolphins, the Saturday game. How you seen that? The Warriors are doing a lot of resting as well, sitting
Yeah,
at third at the moment.
yeah, it's a lot of guys being rested. So, like I said before, it makes the predictions quite difficult.
Mm.
But yeah, if the Warriors can get a win, that'll be 8 in a row for them, and that's going to equal
Yes.
the club record, which they set way back in 2002.
Right.
So
Yeah.
a lot of guys out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Tim Mighty Martin, seeing how
Yeah,
he
yeah, coming
goes.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's had that long injury layoff, but I think Metcalf, that hammy looked quite bad when he hobbled off. I think he was in tears. So that I don't know if it's season ending, but it looked pretty
Yeah,
close
it's
to
been
it. So,
confirmed this season Indian
oh, has it?
yeah,
It has
so
been.
yeah.
Oh,
So the first time they get to try their new combination of halves when Sean's back will be the first week of
oh
finals.
no,
So yeah,
no.
so it's kind of interesting that they did the rest. You would have thought maybe they'd let him and Tomaida at least just work some
Oh,
combinations this week.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, if they so they're going in with Volkman and Tomaida. And the first time there'll be the new house pairing will be in our first week of finals. Um, so yeah, it's going to be real interesting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I know. Tohu Harris
and
has also picked up an injury as well, so
yeah,
he's in doubt for that first week of the finals. So no, not good news here. I don't know we're sort of looking a bit ahead here, but you're just on this one. I think the Warriors. I think they'll get a win still, and I think they'll equal that record. So the Warriors by 10, and I hope Tim Whitey goes well. I think he's a better defender than Metcalf. So they've had some edge defense issues, and I think it was the Seagulls. They really went after Metcalf,
Saab, yeah,
and then
yeah,
that caused Pompey and Co to turn in, and then that left Saab getting outside Montoya. So I think hopefully Tim Whitey can fix that part of the game up for the Warriors. They don't want to put too much pressure on him because he's coming back from a long term injury. But yeah, it's going to be a good game for the Warriors, and hopefully they can put in a good performance because I know Simon's touched on it a little bit, but they've been getting wins without actually playing that good. So it'd be good to just see them put in a solid performance just before the playoffs. Anyway,
yeah. It'll be interesting. Especially with some of those you and Aiken playing against the Warriors. So
oh
and
yeah,
that's on
yeah,
that edge that you're talking about. So that'll be quite interesting to see that matchup. Yeah, and Hammer's back. So yeah, I'm picking the Warriors. But that'll be real interesting. Just the position they find themselves in. Without those halves having a chance. Second game on Saturday night, Panthers Cowboys. Um, Panthers currently on 40. Um, so I guess it's really determinant on the first game. Not sure if they've got a team list yet. What are your thoughts on this one? They'll probably rest players if the Broncos win. Your thoughts on them resting?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they will, because they suffered that shock loss last week
Mm.
um,
You,
to the
you
Eels.
mentioned, for that record, and so you felt, and Tama, also a proud Panther supporter, thought they needed a loss. Not sure if they plan to lose two in a row though.
Exactly. Like you don't want to be heading into the playoffs with back-to-back losses. You know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah,
if you look
yeah.
at the team they've named, they haven't gone as rested as much as the rest of the top four. Even though they're guaranteed first or second, they'll get a home playoff in week one. But I think that loss to the Eels kind of stuffed their plans up a little bit, and they're thinking we don't want to go on with back-to-back losses. So they're putting in close, not quite their best team, but pretty close to it. I think Luai, he's done his shoulder. Now, I don't know how bad that is if they've released the news on that. But yeah, Cogger at 6 is going to be interesting. He's more of a 7, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
he's
have the
been
running
filling for
game.
Nathan Cleary, and
Yeah, and he
so
done a good job there, but
yeah.
that's more his natural game. Luai is he's a good runner, and he's got good footwork and all the rest of it. So Luai, Cleary's more of a passer type guy, passer kicker type half. And then when you add Yo, who's the passer as well, Cogger is also a passing guy. So there's too much. That's where Luai becomes really important because he offers that point of difference, being the running half. And I think this is the Panthers got those great systems where they can just chuck guys in who can play that similar style. But Luai's almost the guy that's irreplaceable because there's no like for like replacement for him. So that's going
Mm-mm.
to get quite interesting
Yeah.
there, how that all works out.
It's a good point though, like you're saying, like yeah, pretty much playing their close to their strongest team as well. Um, but yeah, with that Cogger choice, yeah, maybe they try play something with Tyrone, maybe Peachy, because I guess he's the only one who
Mm,
kind of has a running game. So maybe they try and bring him a bit more, bring him closer, maybe play him as another ball player just to run, like you're saying, because yeah, everything's going to be off a pass. But yeah, yeah, I'm surprised that they've got such a strong looking team. But yeah, I think that that loss last week probably did a lot of harm to them.
yeah,
Um,
they don't want to lose back to back and then play,
yeah,
you know, the playoffs. So I think that's why. I think if they won last week, they would have rested a lot of guys this week. But that sort of put a spanner in the works for them.
yeah, real
Mm,
interesting though. So that with your Storm winning that first game, and if they're playing their first string team, they actually end up back as minor premiers, just based on their strong for and against.
yeah. Also, keep in mind, like the Cowboys are in the mix, sort of, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Potentially,
So it's huge for
and
the Cowboys to actually get in there.
if they had rested a lot of their guys, the Cowboys probably would have had a higher chance of winning that game and then getting in the playoffs. But now, you know, the, the Eels might have indirectly sort of stuffed up the Cowboys' chances in some way.
And I think similar to what the Warriors are facing, I think maybe they're looking at that same point of not wanting to go into finals with a new combination, an untested combination. Because
Mm,
I guess, like you're saying, the interesting call about Cogger is that's the call that they have to make for the rest of the playoffs, unless Luai can come back. Yeah, I don't know how long, how bad that injury is. They're trying to play it down that he's not going to get surgery and he's going to somehow play on. So, yeah,
okay.
I don't know how bad it is. But yeah, I guess definitely not the time to be experimenting. So they've
Mm.
obviously seen something enough at training to lock in Cogger. They don't seem like a team that would chop and change each week. So maybe they're trying to try and solidify those combinations before heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I heard some
Um,
stats say the the Panthers actually have a higher winning percentage with Luai than they do with Cleary.
mm,
So I think
and with
when
Cleary,
Cleary's
yeah.
out, yeah, when Cleary's out, it's still high, but when Luai's out, I think it's quite a bit worse or something. So I can't remember what the exact number was, but it just shows how important Luai is to that team. Um, yeah, so that's going to get quite interesting.
Yeah, that should be a good one. And the Cowboys will be desperate too. So, I think the Cowboys are. I think the Cowboys are. just yeah, I think you look at paper, and I think it's a well coached team that plays above its yeah, just above the, I guess the roster because yeah, I mean yeah, nothing really stands out from that the Cowboys team. They've always had solid team, but just Drinkwater's probably been one of their guns this year.
Mm,
But yeah, Townsend's nothing. He's always just solid, but yeah, not a real huge game changer. Um,
yeah. They got a. I actually think their roster's not too shabby. I think they've got a top eight roster. So if they miss the playoffs, I think that will be they would have underachieved. Um, and that'll be disappointing for them. But you never know. That sometimes you can use that as motivation. I heard Matthew Johns talking about this earlier. How they were, I think they were pre tournament favourites. I think '96. They had a good year '95 and then '96, and then they missed the playoffs, and that
Missed the
spurred them
playoffs.
on.
Yeah, that's right, because
Yeah,
they were the last to have that record. That's what you were saying. Yeah, before
yeah,
the
and then
Eels had what was it? 2013 was the last.
that spurred them on to achieve better things. So um, maybe there's a silver lining there, but at this point, I think they would underachieve if they missed the eight.
Tom Dearden, probably picking him to have a standout for the Cowboys.
Mm.
He's had a pretty good season too. Missed out on Origin, but yeah, he's been pretty solid ever since. Um,
Yeah, and you're sort of wondering, DC is getting on a bit. Who's next in line? And I think maybe Dearden might be that guy. So for Origin level, so I think he's had a game or two, and he showed up pretty good. So he can play at a high level if he's given the opportunity for sure.
yeah, yeah, nice. Um, the Dragons Knights game, last game of Saturday night. Um, Dragons Dragons pushed hard last week against the Warriors.
Yeah, yeah. I thought they played right. They put 28 points on the Storm the week before, so they're not bad. And I think Ravalawa he scored 20 tries in 20 games, so their attack down that right side is actually quite good. And I don't want to talk about the Warriors too much, but the Warriors they did a good job defending that, and then that's one
Yeah,
of the
yeah. Well, that
improvements that
was
we
one
saw in
thing.
that week.
They
Yeah.
yeah, the Dragons were perfect for that first opening 20 minutes.
Mm, mm.
Um, and so just they turned up. So yeah, really proud of the Warriors defense last week too. Being able to hold them out for those long periods.
Yeah. So
Um,
I think the Dragons they're not a bad side. I mean they're languishing. I wouldn't like if you watch that game against the Warriors and you watch that game against the Storm, even though they lost both of them, that's two top four teams they played and they gave a good account of themselves. So if you'd watch those two games, you wouldn't think, oh, that's the second to last team playing back to back top four teams. So I'm not sure what's going on there because I don't think they're that bad as the second to last. But yeah, they've got problems there. And the Knights, they're on an 8 game winning streak. So, they're probably the most informed team heading into the playoffs. And I think Ponga's out. Actually, he's probably been their best player or the best player of the whole comp, probably for the last sort of 6 odd weeks. But I think, yeah, they're just too much class. So, Knights 13 plus, even without Ponga, I reckon.
oh, nice, 13 plus. Lachlan Miller comes in. Oh yeah, yeah. He's been
He was good, yeah, before.
yeah, he was good as yeah filling in.
Mm,
Yeah. What did he get dropped to reserve grade? 'Cause I didn't even see him in the reserves for a while.
yeah, he was dropped to
Or was
reserve
he?
grade, and then because remember Ponga started off playing 5'8", so that's how Lockie Miller was getting that game. Then they decided correctly to switch Ponga back to fullback, and it was harsh on Miller because I didn't think he was that bad. But then that's where Gamble got the six jersey again. He's a genuine 5'8", so. Mm. But Miller's shown that he's at least first grade material. So I don't think that it is a loss, but I don't think that that Miller's not up to it. For instance,
Yeah. But yeah, no, the Knights started to get some of those combinations right after they yeah and it's interesting like that they've had this run of form.
Mm,
You just wonder, like, just that whole experiment of trying to put Ponga in there again. They tried that last year as well, and it failed, and then they tried again. So it's interesting. But yeah, I think yeah, just Tyson Gamble coming in there as a proper 5'8", and then also I've been real impressed with Phoenix Crosland coming in there at 9.
bro,
Um,
he's gonna if he makes himself available for the Kiwis. I don't know. I know he's born in Wellington, but I don't know his full history. But
mm,
I'd pick him, eh? I'd pick him for the Kiwis. I think he's
yeah,
that
yeah,
that good of a season.
he's got a nice little short kicking game. I mean, you look at like Saifiti's been carving just off the back of those little short balls he gives him and those little kicks. So um, but he's out. He's maybe rested or out. But yeah, so him, Gagai, Ponga, and Frizzell. So a lot of big names out. But they still look solid. Farmanu Brown coming in. They still got Saifiti and Thompson in there. So yeah, I think I'm going with you. Knights and Dragons on a rebuild. Looks like Shane Flanagan's convinced Ben Hunt to stay.
Okay,
Looks
that's
like he's
good
going to
news for
stick
them.
around next year. Yeah, yeah. I think he's probably just told him, let's yeah. I guess yes, being able to see, what they can do with that team, and maybe under a bit of different coaching under Flanagan, um, maybe they can turn it around. Ben Hunt's huge for that team. Lomax starting to come into some form too, so um, yeah, I think again, real disappointing for the Dragons, especially to run 16th um, behind the Bulldogs. So yeah, I think they're very much looking forward to next year. So Knights for this one. All right, first of our Sunday games. Again, two games that don't mean anything. Um, Probably disappointing too. Titans Bulldogs. Um, yeah, I don't know. Flip a coin. Who cares?
Yeah, basically. I feel for well, I don't know. I won't watch it. Like you said, there's not much playoff ramifications for this one, so yeah, disappointing season for both those teams. I mean, that I suppose that means these guys out there who could be playing for their careers. You think both of these teams are going to be looking at tinkering with their rosters and trying to make improvements so they can make the playoffs next year. But I look at that Titans pack and Fafita, Fortroika, Big Tino. They've got foreign playing off the back of that, so I think the Titans should have been probably what are they 13th? They should be a bit higher up the table. They should have been closer to that top eight. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so I'll pick them more one just because I think they got a better roster. And that dog's defense, man, we talk about it every podcast, but
Yeah.
shucks, that is woeful.
Well, yeah, I saw something, a vision today that Serrano coming out saying that the culture there isn't where it needs to be.
Mm, mm.
Um, and yeah, I guess that speaks volumes of very much, what we saw coming into the season. Those were the two great hopes coming out of the Panthers system and looking around. I think we were actually making a play for Serrano first, eh? I
Yeah,
remember that was the name I heard bandied around, and so when I heard Webster, I had to do some research. Yeah, but I'd heard Serrato's name, and so um, yeah, and so when he went doggies, I thought, okay, well, we got the other. Um, yeah, we got the coach of the year. You seeing anyone else holding that title up at the moment? I know some were saying Todd Payton, but
coach of the year. Yeah, I like the Warriors just from where people thought they would finish to where they've actually finished. I don't think anyone picked the Warriors for third. Not many people even picked them for top eight. So a lot of them had them in finishing with the Tigers and the Dragons around that area. So that's a massive coaching achievement in his first year. Oh, I think Kevy might go close as well. The Broncos have had a really strong year, and it's sort of hard for Ivan Cleary and Bellamy. They're always their teams are good for so long. You just sort of take for granted how good they
well,
are.
yeah,
But
especially Clary, like if he misses out, taking his team close to a three-peat. If he gets the three-peat though, should it be automatic for him to be coach of the year?
Yeah, maybe because like he didn't win it last year. I think Payton won the Coach of the Year last year. Um, I'm not sure if he got it the year before
Surely you
either. So
must
I
have to
mean, it's
say
sort
that
of
it's
yeah,
the
must have got
coach.
it
If he
one of
can
those years.
manage your
Um,
roster through all of the injuries and everything and get a three-peat, surely you deserve coach of the year. Yeah, interesting though, because yeah, I have Webster right up there for the work he's done. Um,
hmm.
but I digress. So yeah, Titans for that one, did you say, bro?
Yeah, yeah. And one thing just about those dogs there because they need to get a bit of fullback here. I felt for Hayes, he got shown up badly last week, eh? So I
Yeah.
hope they can get. I think they're getting Crichton in there from the Panthers. I'm not sure if they're signing to play centre
Oh yeah,
or fullback, but I just
he's
saw
tiny at
this
fullback
analysis.
though. The times he's filled in, so
Yeah, nah, he's been good, eh? So yeah, I saw this analysis of basically it was about Cherry Evans and how he would stand sort of behind the ruck. This is the game against the Dogs Eagles game of the weekend, and then he would just make his decisions late on which side he was going to run to, and that kept the fullback Hayes Pyramid guessing about how to organise, his defensive line and then numbers. But it was really about a masterclass from Cherry Evans, but it also exposed, how inexperienced is Hayes Pyramids at organising defences. So they need someone better who can do that for the Dogs. So
what was his?
maybe
Because
Crichton might be
he
the
came
guy.
from the Warriors system, but was he a 5'8" or was he in the halves or is
He played a bit
he
of
is a
centre for the
fullback?
Warriors. I
Oh,
think he
okay.
was supposed to be a fullback, but he was a gun rugby union player at high school. That's where they found him,
Okay,
and then
yeah.
he come through that system. So I don't know if he's got much rugby league experience and
Mm.
fullback experience. So I think
Because I
that's
guess
just
that's
what's
the thing, eh?
catching up
You
to him.
take for granted, like, yeah, seeing really good league players, and especially these fullbacks, they can, if they come from Union and they can kind of run awesome lines when they've got the ball, but just
Mm,
how much work happens off the ball with the organizing and
yeah,
just being able
exactly.
to call that stuff quickly. And so yeah, like you're saying, with that inexperience, and someone like Cherry Evans realizes that you're not actually organizing, you're just kind of filling in the gaps and not really talking. I guess that's when someone like Cherry Evans can pick a fullback apart. And I guess that's the thing. Also, being a young player, I think you just see the difference in someone, like Reese Walsh, being able to organize, troops, um, and still being young. So it's nothing to do with being inexperienced. I think it's more, yeah, just the time and the role. So obviously, yeah, Reese has probably played a lot more fullback at a level where he's had to organise players. Um, nice. Last game of the round. It was probably an important one to these guys. Sharks and Raiders, seventh versus sixth. Positional change really for these two, which may just depend on who they're facing.
Yeah, I think well six will get a home playoff in week one, so I think that both teams will try to win it. Yeah, just to get that home playoff in week one, that definitely helps us, particularly if you're finishing that fifth to eighth spot because you're not getting any extra lives. So there's quite a bit to play for these teams, and it could be quite a good game. Um,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, because if the Raiders get up, Sharks slip to seventh.
yeah.
Okay, and then okay, so it's basically, yeah, jostling for the home
Mm.
advantage. Okay.
Oh, but yeah, I didn't realize that this, but there could be potentially the same teams matching up again, depending on how it goes, but on what the ladder predictor says. But yeah, so there's a bit to play for there. I think the Raiders they've lost. What's his name? Horsburgh. Horsburgh got a suspension.
Yeah, that was a big call when I saw the suspension come out
Yeah, that was
because
a
it,
head
it
school.
it looked innocuous, the actual hit, and the player got straight back up. So you kind of, yeah, well, you wonder where that plays into it when they keep saying it's player welfare, but then you see a player get up and they're fine, and then others where they're dazed and nothing happens. So that was a huge call. Um, What were your thoughts on Ricky blowing up last week, though?
Oh, that's what he does.
Yeah,
He does that, eh? You know, he's trying to correct that siege mentality amongst the players. Everyone's against us, blah blah blah. And I think that's good for him to do that just this close to the finals because they're fought against us so bad. You know, there's a possibility. I'm not sure the ramifications of the ladder predictor, but there's a possibility they might fall out the eight, which would be disastrous because they've been in the top eight for about 20 straight weeks, something ridiculous like that. So to fall out on the last week, that would be harsh for them. And I think that's what he's
yeah. The
trying to do, just
Cowboys
create that
get up. They,
mentality.
they, yeah, they fall out. So we've predicted the Panthers, but yeah, if the Cowboys can actually steal a win, um, a few other results, and the Sharks beat them, the Raiders actually fall out of the eight, which will be
Mm.
the worst result for them. Um, but you're going Sharks for that one?
I am, yeah. Horsburgh's out, Popoli is out as well. And just the way the Raiders play, they play that through the middle style. That's where their strength is, their middles. Horsburgh, Papali'i, Tapuni. Those are their best players, so they play that style. You take two of those guys out, I just don't think they can match it. Another interesting side, they've picked Whiten at centre again, which is interesting. So Frawley at 5'8". So this is one thing I picked up from that game when they played the Bronx. I think that they were worried about Reese Walsh sweeping up the back, and if the edge defence could hold up, and
Oh,
particularly
so
because they
that's
would
why
have
they want to
picked
try and push
Jared
what?
Croker. Jared Croker's their normal centre,
Ah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
think he would have got carved. So they decided to pick White in at centre, who's a far better defender than Croker. And I thought that helped out a little bit. I thought that he did a better. Walsh is too classy, so it didn't really matter. But they've stuck with that same plan of picking White at centre and Frawley at six. But Frawley's not a good defender at six. I wonder if he might be the target. I mean, if you consider Hines is there, he's back, and Nicodas runs those great lines at the back row. So they
Yeah,
might
and
go after
Trundle's been
Frawley
playing
there.
real good there. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty stacked their team too. So I think the Sharks are serious about this game.
Well, I think
There's no
when we
rest
look
here.
at the later predictor, getting that home playoff or not, that's the Sharks will back themselves to win a home game, but to go away, there could be a difference
Mm.
between getting knocked out in the first week or carrying on.
Nice, Us. All right. So based on that, we got our top eight. Just putting those results based on what you went through just then. We got
Okay.
our top eight, and our first week of finals has the Panthers meeting the Storm. Yeah, so with the Storm beating the Broncos and the Panthers going on to beat the Cowboys, the Panthers end up minor premiers. So yeah, first week they go through and potentially meet the Storm based on that predictor.
Okay.
How do you see them going in that first week?
Well, I think the Panthers have given the Storm. They played them twice, and I don't remember the exact results, but I think they were pretty convincing wins for the Panthers, eh? So, and we
Mm,
talked about that hoodoo that the Storm have over the Bronx, but I think psychologically the Panthers have got the Storm covered. So I'd probably take the Panthers on that one, just on that same factor.
nice. That'll be interesting. So Panthers, okay. So home advantage to the Knights. They play against the Raiders based on those picks.
Oh,
Knights home game. You see them
yeah,
continuing on. This puts them
I
at 10 wins in a row.
yeah, that's getting up there, but the Knights at home, that's where they're pretty hard to beat. I think I think whoever gets that home ground advantage is quite crucial in the playoffs. So yeah, I'd take the Knights just for that home ground advantage, and also that Horsburgh suspension, which was ridiculous. I'll add
Mm, yeah.
that could be
Well, yeah, and he'll
crucial.
still be out for that. Potentially, Knights should have Ponga back by that game.
Yeah,
Dane.
and he's the most crucial guy, Ponga. So I don't know how bad his shoulder injury was, but if he's back for that first week of the finals, he'll be the difference. I think. So how did you see that one? Are you seeing
Yeah,
anything
no,
different?
I had the yeah, I think the Knights are going to go real good into the deep into the finals. Um, yeah, I don't know because they've kind of just had this run of form. Um, if they need the like as much as we kind of talk about the Panthers and the Warriors going on these long runs. Um, yeah, I don't know if it's something like with the momentum that the Knights have. I don't know if it's still the same kind of. Would you talk the same way with them that they need a loss?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Honestly, I don't. There's that interesting stat that no one's won it outside the top four, and I believe in that stat. Yeah, I've seen teams that are better than the Knights. I believe that have finished in that fifth to eighth spot who haven't kicked on. So I'm a big subscriber to that theory that if you're outside the top four, it's just too hard. You only get one life. Your opponent might get a home game in the first week, but outside of that, you're away well, for the rest of the playoffs until the grand final, and away against gun teams. So it's just too hard to win, and history's shown that. So honestly, I don't see anyone outside that fifth to
That top
eighth
four.
winning it.
Ooh, all right. So the other two teams, or the other teams that come into the mix for the eight, Sharks and Roosters. Roosters end up slipping in there.
Ooh,
Hold on, let me make sure that it's still. Oh no, you chose rabbits, eh?
yeah,
To beat the
either or,
Roosters.
Sharks or Rabbits. It doesn't Sharks, Roosters, Sharks, Rabbits.
So look at this.
I'm not sure if the Sharks
Yeah, so
could
Sharks
beat
rabbits.
others.
Either way, Sharks Roosters, Shark rabbits. It's a home game for the Sharks.
Yeah, that'll be a tough one, eh?
Yeah, that's
I
likely to
know.
be rabbits with Latrell back.
Mm, it's one of those ones where I keep getting swayed by the roster on paper, even though the Rabbits have got major issues. I can't get past that roster. And even the Roosters, like that'll be weird. I think I saw this thing where the Roosters, if they sneak in, they've been out of the top eight since round 10. And for them to
Sharks.
get all the way back in on round 27 and just sneak in by all these weird results, that'll be like,
Oh.
bro, you don't really deserve to be there, but whatever. Yeah,
Well, yeah,
17
that's the
weeks and
season
then
that we've
just,
been having, though. Everyone's been pulling stuff out.
mm, mm,
Again, though, the Sharks, is it still the same thing that they've had all season, that they've been beating up any team outside the eight?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I think that's still true. And whoever gets in the Rabbits or the Roosters, I think they'll take the Sharks. No disrespect to the Sharks fans that are listening and probably scoffing at that idea. I mean, but yeah, I keep getting swayed by the teams on paper. How would you see that one?
yeah, no, I think just for the sheer fact the way the Sharks have been going and kind of the teams that they've been able to win against. Um, I think that they end up losing this one at home, um, and no second chance. So yeah, whether it is rabbits or roosters, I'm picking either of those two on paper, and just kind of. I think yeah, either of those teams when they get into the eight, they because they've been there before. It's pretty much a whole new season for them. The game plan, everything else that's happened, this whole season goes out the door, and everyone's on the same playing field again. And I think that kind of mentality from teams like the Roosters and Rabbits, when you say the roster, that's where they can truly just do a reset and go, look, it doesn't matter what's happened through the season, we're here now.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
I'm expecting a strong, turning up from either of those teams if they scrape into the eight. Um, Rounding out the final, Bronx and Warriors
Yeah,
at
I'm not
at
sure
Suncorp.
I'm not sure who would have won out of the Broncos or the Panthers because I know he'd probably end up playing one of those two teams in that first week. With Luai
Mm.
out, I'm not sure. Maybe that makes the Panthers better, and they lost it to the Eels. But the Bronx, we got an okay record against the Bronx. I heard, I don't know who said it, but in the last 5 games, we've had 2 wins and a draw, so 50-50 record there.
Oh, okay.
The Bronx have, and Simon can attest to this as well. There's heaps of Warriors supporters in Queensland and all the rest of it. So if a game at Suncorp, I think we could get a lot of supporters there as well. It's not just going to be one-sided Bronx. So I think it'll be close, but I would still probably just go the Bronx just because I think they're just a bit more better than the Warriors at this point. Hard for
Hmm.
me to say. Hard for me to say, but I'd go the Bronx in week one.
All right, we'll push on to week two
how,
of the finals
how,
then.
how, how are you seeing that? How would you see that one?
Over at Suncorp, yeah, I guess I want to back the Warriors, but I think it'll be interesting. Like, yeah, like the Broncos have been playing too good. Um, and I'm not fussed. Like, I think that we've earned that life, and that's probably why I wouldn't have minded meeting the Panthers this week. So Panthers or Broncos, I'm not fussed which one. We're going to learn from it. I think the biggest thing that's kind of swaying me is that new halves combination that I mentioned. Going into the finals and having to figure out, on the fly if their same systems will hold up. Yes, Webster coming from the Panther system, it's very similar, that next man up mentality. We kind of had a lot of changes the beginning of the season when we were doing okay, and I think we had a long period just with consistency with Metcalf and Johnson, which kind of gave more confidence as the season went. So kind of to have a combination break, it's probably good though. Like Johnson's played this whole season, so he's pretty much steered, and whoever's come in seems to do a job, especially with Tomato. So it'll be good for Tomato to get that game under his belt this week. But nah, I actually see the Warriors just going for it.
Oh, nice.
Um,
I think Harris is being out. He's going to be out for the week one of the finals. That's a big loss because he's that
uh,
link man in between the two halves.
yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
another breakdown in that playmaking system. We've got two new halves and the link man in the middle's not there. So
They,
mm,
they got Dylan Walker playing, like, so he can
right,
ball play,
yeah, you're
but
right.
then he can overplay his hand. Like, I think that's the thing. Toy's very measured. Like, he knows when to give it, when to hold. I think Dylan's very, um, he's got that experience as a 5'8", so he's got a good running game as well. But maybe it's just a bit of picking and choosing. But yeah, I think we're spoiled for riches. The fact that we did get Dylan Edwards, like Cam said at the beginning of the year, he's probably been one of the pickups from Manly. Probably a huge loss for them. Um, but yeah, I will go with the Warriors for that one. But I'll keep your picks locked in there. Um, and we'll go with that. So if that's how the week one panned out, week two has the Storm taking on the Knights over in Melbourne. How do you see that playing out if the Knights get another chance?
Yeah, that'll be a good game.
Mm.
Um, the
Yeah,
Knights will
okay.
be
Oh
be
man,
in
imagine
great form.
Pappenhausen if he's back in form after next week too.
Yeah, a lot will depend on how he comes back because that'll be his potentially his fourth
Third.
game, or
Mm.
third or fourth game. So he'll be hopefully getting back to some of his best footy. I've heard Cooper Cronk talk about this because he was quite happy with Nick Meaney at fullback, and he thinks that they'll keep Pappenhausen on the bench and you know running through the middle, similar to playing
Oh
that
yeah,
14 role with some tired defenders. I think that could work. They've got some big guys there at the Knights with the Saifidi boys and
yeah.
Thompson, and that his footwork and his speed could tire those guys out and find little spaces there. So I'll take the Storm on that one. Pappenhausen effect, in full effect there. What about you? How are you seeing that one?
Yeah, no, I think again that experience, and probably to your point, like that teams outside the eight, the four, top four. And again, like same as Rabbitohs and Roosters, Storm are, they're once they make the eight, it's a clean slate. So yeah, I think the Storm will go on to take this game. You pick the Warriors to lose that first week. That means that they end up meeting either the Rabbits or the Roosters in week two.
Oh no, that's not what I
So
wanted to
yeah,
hear.
again, so yeah, both stats kind of play into this with your teams outside the four. So the Warriors sitting third will have a home. So it's a long way to travel for these teams that are kind of, as much as they're good on paper, that travel across from there to come back to Mount Smart Stadium. Especially that'll be a sellout for the Warriors. I don't even know if tickets will be available at the moment. if people are predicting them to not make that first week. But yeah, also for them to have a guaranteed home um, final though. Um, but yeah, what are your thoughts? Is it head or heart, or even with your head, you can still call the Warriors on this?
Yeah, the Rabbitohs and all the Roosters have been in disarray all season. So even though on paper they got the team, it's hard to. They haven't shown enough. They would have either just they would have whoever gets in it would have just snuck in there.
Mm,
And the Warriors have been consistently good. And I think at home as well, I think that's a deciding
yeah,
factor. Tohu Harris should be back by then. And he's a crucial cog in the Warriors. So yeah, I'll take the Warriors to win that one at home. And what are your thoughts?
yeah. No, I think yeah. Again, I think the Warriors have been had the Roosters. Yeah, I think the season we've had, just that consistency, should give them the confidence to not kind of think of these teams the way fans look at them as well. I think they've played enough footy this season to hopefully look at these teams as beatable teams for them. Um, yeah, and I think bringing it home too. I think it'll mean a lot to them. Never ranked this high before, so I think this is huge. So I'm picking the Warriors to take it in that game, that second week as well. Which means we get into week three with the top four teams again. Um, and that, yeah, so preliminary final week three has us meeting the Panthers.
Gee, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. I know the Panthers lost last week, but to me, they're still the best team. A lot of it's going to depend on Luai because I think he's that crucial. If that season ending, I don't know if they can win it without him, but if he's back, I'll give them a decent shout. I think they'll still be the team to beat. Because a lot would depend on how Cogger can chime in there and fill that role for them. But if they can get after their back three, we've talked about this before, the style that they play, how their back three do a lot of the running. So if we can kick early and smash their back three, I'll give them a chance. I like the Warriors' footwork through the middle. So Fanua Blake's got good footwork for a big man. Dylan Walker, when he comes on, he's got footwork. And I think that's how you can get the Panthers' middles. They're so fast line speed. But you can beat them with footwork and bit of and short passing. That's how you can get them to miss tackles and move them around a bit more. So I will say the Warriors. I'll say the Warriors on that one. That's the heart speaking as well. Panthers will probably be in my head if I'm being honest, but the Warriors, I'll go the heart pick. How are you saying that one?
Yeah, no, I say Warriors on that. Like I think that's yeah. I want us to get to that grand final, so I have to say Warriors on that. Um, I probably would have preferred having again meeting the Panthers in week one. But I think yeah, I think if Warriors win that does after that I think I'm not fussed who we meet out of these other two. So Broncos Storm. We talked about that hoodoo. So you already picked the Storm to take them this week. The Broncos go away and win another game. They would beat the Warriors, have a rest, and now they meet the Storm again.
Yeah,
Does the hoodoo continue if they
it
can't beat
does.
them
It
this
does
week?
to me. I think the Bronx just psychologically, that's the team that's got them. Storm.
Mm.
I reckon they can take everyone else
Yeah,
except
yeah,
the
bit of
Storm.
a
I
water
think
boy
Storm.
there with Bellamy and and Kivy too. I think
Yeah,
that's
you'd think the Storm. They've quite historically had a lot of Queenslanders in there. So they've got Munster
mm,
and Harry Grant now. They've had the big
yeah.
three there. So they
Well,
will
yeah, and I
always
think
get up
it's
to
it
play.
televised the Suncorp kind of aura there too for the Broncos.
Yeah, and they're always a team that will get up to play against
Mm,
the biggest Queensland team, just because that's where a lot of their players come from. Bellamy was a ex-assistant coach at the Bronx when he left,
Bronx,
so to
yeah,
take the
yeah.
Storm. So there's a lot of connections there, and I think sort of want to put on a good performance. I think that's why the Storm have got them always step up for that game against the Bronx and that hoodoo. If they don't break it this week, I think it's going to come back to bite them. So
Eh,
I'll take the Storm on that one.
what a call. Yeah, I think
What about you?
that
Who's
hoodoo
going?
plays a lot into it. um, yeah, no, I think if they break it this week, it does a world of good because then you get your stars come back with Reese Walsh and all that, and that's not a factor anymore. That's just go out there and play footy. Um, I think the roster they got though, the Storm are starting to come right. Jerome Hughes, I don't know how long he's meant to be out for, so that's probably a
Oh
big
yeah,
out
that's a
for the
very good point.
Storm.
Yeah, yeah, they can't win it
Um,
without Hughes. I don't think.
yeah, and I think their spine is finally starting to click. So yeah, that Nick Meaney, that's a huge factor of consistency in keeping them together. Um, but yeah, I think if it goes the way you're saying, if the Bronx lose to them this week, and it plays out like this, I think they end up losing to them twice, um, and that ends their fairy tale. And we go grand final against the Melbourne Storm.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, what do they traditionally do there? Like when they had the All Queensland derby, and so now this is a Victorian New Zealand final. Where would they play this?
No, I think that's already booked in for
So it always goes to a core stadium, is it?
a core stadium. Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
it's, it's already pre-planned near whoever gets in. So yeah, that'd be interesting. Two teams from outside, how much people get
yeah,
across to that. But I know that they used to have the McIntyre final system. So when first would
yes,
play
the
eight,
old
second play
system.
seven,
Yeah,
yeah, and they abandoned that in 2011. So 2012 was
after
when
the
they
Warriors
after
played
the
all their
Warriors.
way to the final, and everyone got angry.
Exactly, exactly. Then in 2012 they started, and since 2012, since they've got this new system of the top four playing each other and the bottom fifth to eighth playing each other,
Yeah.
no team has ever won it outside the top three.
Oh
So
wow.
for that
Okay.
reason, third playing fourth, I will take the Warriors to carry on that tradition. Even though
Oh
the Storm have got the Warriors covered too, like the Bronx. I don't know what our record is. I don't think it's as bad as the Bronx's, but it's like they've won like 8 or 9 in a row against the
yeah.
Storm against the Warriors. So that'd be a hard feat. Um, yeah, but that's looking good. I better start looking at some
Yeah.
tickets.
Stars are aligning.
Get two Warriors supporters to do the predictions, and it all works
Yeah.
out.
It worked out perfectly for how these predictors are meant to work. You just put in when your team to win anything, of course they're going to come up the winners. Um, well, yeah, but I mean that's how it has played out most of the year, and I think one of the things I wanted to bring up was the rub of the green, how much that impacts how your team goes. Like a lot of these teams, even to make it to the eight, um, my Pete, he's come on the show. He laughs about it and he says how much of a change in the refs and the way we get calls ever since the CEO of One New Zealand came out and spoke out against the calls that were going against us. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts? How much do you think that plays into it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced about that, eh? Like I'm really focusing on the defense, eh?
Mm,
Like if a team like say the Tigers or the Dogs, if they get a 50-50 call against them, that almost certainly leads to them conceding points.
yeah,
And you remember those bad calls if it costs you a try and it costs you a game. But you don't remember a 50-50 call against you if you defend it and you keep
yeah,
the
true.
opposition out. So, I'm sure we don't have Tummer on, but I'm sure he could come on here and point out heaps of 50-50 calls against the Panthers. But they overcome them in a lot of instances. They don't let those calls cost them the game. So that's the difference between the top teams and the bottom teams. The top teams can
Yeah,
defend bad calls against them, and the bottom teams can't. And you remember those bad calls that cost you a try or cost you a
yeah,
game, so it stands out more. And that's what I think the difference is. So look at us. We're the Warriors supporters. We've watched our team
yeah,
suck, and you're like, oh, we got some dud calls, so that's why they got a try, or that's why we lost. But now I think we're still getting dud calls, but our
yeah,
defense is better. So we just hold them out, and it doesn't. without losing games from those dud calls. So
Mm.
I don't think
Yeah,
we're getting the
that's a
rub of the
very
green
good point.
anymore. Hmm.
Yeah,
Just better
I think
defense.
yeah, I think that is a big point because yeah, I remember so many games where I've been filthy this year just watching a bad call. Um, yeah, and I guess in previous seasons, those were the turning points. You kind of know those bad calls that would lead to the team dropping their head. You know, we've had some real bad starts in a lot of our games earlier in the season. Um, and yeah, I think that was the early in the season. That was what everyone kept banding around about the Warriors was the resilience, being able to just see them push through and kind of week after week, whatever came through, they were able to win. So yeah, I think that is probably a big, huge point that I was missing because yeah, I guess I saw a lot of the rub of the green, but yeah, I actually do remember team games where I've been filthy, and then real proud of the boys of not allowing that to be the reason they lost the game, and kind of nullifying that out. So I think yeah, that probably does speak to what looks like a 50-50 call not going your way, but it's only because of the result not going your way, and how you responded to that 50-50 call.
Is
Um,
Pete upset about his team not getting the 50-50s? Is that what he's saying? Because they're,
I
they're
think
they're out of the top eight for the first time in like 5 or 6 years. So maybe he's
Pete's
just
still
saying they're
getting
not
drunk.
keeping it up.
Um, yeah, so I think yeah, I thought those 50-50 calls were probably going to play a lot into it. And kind of that, when that Manly game, that the Warriors call that, that could have been a big result had they charged Nickel Clockstad, um, for that contact on Ruben Garrick. And so those are probably huge calls there. Um, but yeah, took some man. So we're at the end of the season. We're at the this is the pointy edge, week 27. I heard the guys on Bloke in a Bar talking about the length of the season. And potentially, the impact and pressure it's putting on the players to be able to play week after week, and then get into a preseason. You think internationals as well. Your thoughts on the length of the season, like the Super Rugby season, being the counter coast. How long does that go for? Like, what's that?
Yeah, I
Does
think
it make
it's
it for a better
18.
comp?
It's
18
18
weeks.
weeks and then the playoffs. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't say it's a better comp, but maybe I know that players are burning out, and we see
Mm.
that play out last week. Look how many injuries there are. Now,
Yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah,
if that's a length of the season thing or what, but it's hard to maintain. What if we have to go around 27? Shucks, that's more than
yeah.
half a year, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, more than half a year of playing this kind of contact. Yeah, and so it's surprising you don't see more injuries of these guys.
Yeah. And when you factor in, like, imagine if you play all the way to the grand final and then you get picked for the Kiwis or Australian Samoa or whatever,
Oh
particularly if you
yeah,
get picked for Australia, you would have played 27 weeks Origin and then internationals. That's a
get
lot of
internationals.
punishment
Yeah,
for the body. So I'm not sure what the answer is. The current system, because like you said, it's only 27 rounds. I think you get two, was it three buys? So you're playing 24 games, and there's 17 teams. So there's a bit of unfairness in the draw.
mm. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not
It
playing
has
every
to be
team
like
twice, and
potentially.
some teams have got easier draws
Yeah,
just a
so
result of that.
teams
So
they
that's
play
sort of not.
twice end up being like the harder teams.
Yeah, right. So there's that strength of schedule argument as well. Where imagine if you just missed out by 2 points, but you had the hardest schedule.
Yeah.
Or you could be a team that scraped through and you had a really
Well,
easy
you
schedule.
look at the
So
Eels; they had the hardest run home,
right,
and we
exactly.
kind of wrote them off when we saw that run home, thinking,
Yeah,
the maths ain't gonna work for them, just purely based on the run they had. So
yeah, yeah. That's right. So I'm interested in looking at the length of the season just because I don't think the current system's fair. But
mm.
I mean, a lot of it comes back to the money. The
Yeah,
TV
well,
deal
yeah,
is that's what they paid for, and it pays the
yeah,
players. So I don't know if the players will take a pay cut to shorten the season because
mm.
they won't get the TV money, the same level of TV money, and then the players won't be able to get paid as much. So yeah, that's where it gets a
Yeah,
bit
it's a
hard.
real hard
But
one, eh? Because
mm,
yeah, I guess that's That's something they were fighting for too, because there was going to be lengthening of the season, more internationals, and so I
Mm,
guess for the we're already saying the season might be a bit long. Um, yeah, real hard. Like I guess it is exciting, but then you get what we're seeing now. These top teams dropping some of their, resting some of their guns, knowing that it's a week that doesn't really count. Throughout the season, you see some teams resting players as they get a bit of a buffer. Um, saying that though, like I mean, it's been an entertaining season, and a real close season. It's come right down to the last week to determine who's going to be the final eight. Um, so they're still getting something right.
mm. Yeah, so the NRL doesn't have a lot of issues at the moment, in terms of the product and the competition. So I don't know if I'll be making too much changes, but yeah, so maybe they could look at that for sure. Particularly because I'd like to see the international game grow a bit more, just
Yeah.
on the back of that World Cup. But where you fit
Mm-mm.
that into the schedule becomes more a
Yeah.
bigger and bigger issue if you're playing 27 round seasons. So yeah, it's definitely something to look at a bit deeper for sure in future podcasts.
Mm. Well, yeah, because I mean, yeah, to grow the game, yeah, where do you fit it in? And if you start having overlaps, where does it take away from
Right.
um, in the rest of the games? Sure, bro. Probably just one thing I wanted to finish off with. Um, Out of those bottom eight teams, who do you think's probably most disappointed out of those guys? Well, probably the bottom six, sorry, that have no chance of making the eight now.
Um, Gee, I'm going to probably say the Eels. They were grand finalists
Oh,
last
yes,
year.
yeah, yeah,
And we talked about that strength of schedule because that is a factor that now
mm,
I don't know how many people have considered. But yeah, that's a big fall for them. On paper, they got a good roster. I don't know if they had. Pete would be better to speak about it, but I don't know if they had major injuries or whatever. That Dylan Brown situation probably stuffed up their season quite a bit too, because he's a crucial cog in their machine. So,
yeah.
but the
Well, and
Eels, I
Ryan
think,
Madison at the beginning as well. So
yeah, that's right. And I feel
yeah,
like if you talk to a lot of experts, and I use that word loosely because even some of the guys in our podcast would might put themselves in expert category. A lot of them would have picked the Eels to at least finish in the top eight, and the fact that they
yeah,
didn't, that's a big drop for them.
mm,
Who do you
yeah. That's
think?
huge for this season. Yeah, no, no, straight off the bat. Yeah, I think definitely the Eels to be able to get into a grand final. Um, ah, yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the maths how they made the grand final last year.
Exactly, exactly.
But then, I mean, you look at the performance they put on last Thursday,
Mm, mm.
and that is frustrating, Well, I guess not, but as a fan of the game, but also you think as a Eels fan, that must be hard to watch, knowing that that's in your team. And it's not like the Panthers went out there. I think, yeah, like that whole dropping a game. I think they might have planned that for this week, and that went terribly wrong when the Eels turned up last week.
Mm. Also, like
Um,
we talk about this the length of the competition. Like 27 weeks, that's enough time to sort out whatever issues you got and get your
yeah,
your,
that
your
that
act
is the other
together.
thing, eh? Yeah,
So basically, teams finish where they're supposed to finish it after 27 weeks. You can't say,
mm,
"Oh, this happened and that happened," or we had a bad couple of weeks or whatever. And everyone's had you've got enough time to sort your season out, really.
well, Adam O'Brien's proof of that.
Exactly.
He experimented at the beginning of the season, and this experiment that everyone knew was ridiculous, and then he kind of switched, realized, yep, it's not going to work, changed it up, got it right,
Mm,
and now
mm.
these guys are flying into the finals.
Yeah, that's right. That's all right. That's a good point. So,
Yeah,
and the Eels, they probably had the opportunity to do that as well if they could have
yeah.
arrested
I
something. They
think
said
for the
27 weeks, you
Knights,
should sort it out.
again though, for the Knights, I think just with that origin period and then strength of roster again, schedule. I think their back end was a bit favourable. I think they had a lot of the the lower teams to get them in that form.
Yeah.
And kind of when you get in winning form, you got someone like Kellen Ponga, you just keep winning once things start clicking. Um, and then on the flip side of that, out of those six, who are you looking to try and make the biggest moves next year? Who do you really see kind of with their some of the talk of their buys, some of what they're looking to do next year?
Yeah, I think
Possibly make a comeback.
I think in 2021, I might have to fact check this, but in 2021, I think the Cowboys they finished like second or third to last, right? Then what they did is they sacked the coach. They got a new coach in, bring new ideas. That was Todd Payton, and then he got them from just not third to last up to like top four with his new ideas, and he won Coach of the Year. Then you think about 2022 was the Warriors who were languishing in the bottom three. They
Yeah,
get a new coach. He brings in new ideas. Then this year, here we are. We're in the top four. So I'm trying to think of a team who's in the bottom, who got a new coach for next year and can turn things around and get into the top four. And that team is the Titans. They got Des Hasler.
there's
They've got a roster who's good enough. And the Titans are the team who will follow that trend. They will be top four next year. Put $50 on it. Nah.
nice. I like the science behind that answer, mate. Yeah, and Desi's a kind of guy. Yeah, some of their buys too. Yeah, that'll be interesting with the Titans.
Yeah,
Nice, bro.
Titans
Yeah,
might
I
pick
think.
to make a jump.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say the Sharks. I mean the Dragons on the same note. I thought you were gonna say Dragons with Flano coming in.
Oh yeah,
Um,
maybe, yeah.
yeah, because I think again, their rosters tidy with Ben Hunt there. Some of their forwards, and so probably just the way they play. Um, because they're very kind of centered around Ben Hunt, but they're very vanilla. Like there isn't much kind of structure. There's no pattern that you can kind of speak to, similar to kind of the Broncos or the Panthers. The way that they're playing their game, or the Warriors using their forward pack. You kind of I guess you can wonder how Dragons win games, and then you realize they don't win games.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah, so I think
they
maybe
played
on
that
that
game.
same point,
They played that game when they played the Warriors last week, the Dragons. That
mm,
prop they had, his name
Blake Laurie,
escapes me. Blake Laurie. Mate, he was a
yeah,
beast. So they've got a
yeah,
good front row.
yeah,
Oh, one good front row. They've got Ben Hunt, obviously. Zach Lomax. They've got someone on the edge who's pretty
yeah. They
good.
got
Ravalawa is scoring
Ravalawas there, yeah, yeah.
20 tries in 20 games. So
Musgrove in the
the
middle.
pieces
That's
are
right.
there.
He's
The
okay.
pieces
Yeah,
are there.
yeah,
You just
exactly. They're a
gotta
bit loose. Who's their
make it work.
13? I think they lost the. Yeah, well, the Ballon was a huge loss for them.
Right.
Um, so yeah, maybe that's some rostering stuff there. But yeah, I think Flano could probably do a bit with them, kind of what he did with the Sharks, kind of that big shake-up. So yeah, I think on the similar point to yours, but I think the Dragons are probably going to be the biggest movers I see,
Oh,
coming from
nice.
bottom two, probably coming in fifth next year.
Ooh.
We'll see how they go. Pushing hard for the Dragons.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Nice, Wolves.
Yeah.
Anything else, bro?
Yeah, no, not much, man. Just thanks for having me on. I'm
Thanks,
just
bro.
looking at all these teams. They having their Mad Monday celebrations and all the rest of it coming up. So,
Yeah.
man, good luck to those teams. Enjoy that. But just the team culture, man. They got to sort out their team culture. So they talked about the was it the Rabbitohs and what they've gone through. They've bloody fallen off a
Mm.
cliff. And Burgess has bloody been sacked or whatever. You're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the Bulldogs and all the problems that they've got,
Yeah,
more
all their culture
culture issues,
problems.
eh? Their
Yeah.
culture issues. So you compare that to some other teams, Melbourne and that, they're at the top
But yeah,
all
yeah,
the
that's the
time.
thing. Like, I
So,
guess you talk about culture. Warriors, for a long time, Gus, I think that was one thing Gus came and worked really hard on because, there was that
exactly.
culture thing. Like, what's their identity? What are these guys about? Um, and yeah, I guess that's the thing. Webster's come in and has obviously connected to whatever the work that's been done in the background. Because, man, if he was a CEO of a company, you'd be getting him every day to turn the culture of an organization around and actually get that buy-in is huge. Because that's culture isn't a turnaround in a year. You can have a good culture with useless players and turn around a season. But to be able
Yeah,
to
that's
have
right.
the same team pretty much on roster and fix culture, that's huge. Because that's
Yeah,
kind of what the
absolutely.
Warriors you always looked and thought these guys
Mm,
can do it. Week after week, people go, "Oh, they're an exciting team," but you just didn't know what's going through their heads half the time when they just random offloads like, "Oh,
mm,
rocks and diamonds." That was the Warriors, trademark. Every player was rocks and diamonds. Sean
mm.
Johnson had a good week, and then the following week he was, and so just that consistency has been and yeah, that's been what so good as a fan of the Warriors too.
Yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
I've seen a season like this where we've been so consistent. The 02 and the 11 when we got through. Those were we kind of did the maths and made our way in there. But yeah, this has been a real targeted and yeah, just one of those years. Everyone's just been waiting for us to fall off the cliff, and the guys have just kept on going. So I think we did right on our predictor. I think that's perfect.
I hope so. I've put in for some leave. I'm going to try, if the Warriors make it, I'm going to try
Yeah,
and see if I can jet over at the last minute. So I've
find
taken
some
a couple of days
tickets.
off on after the grand final, 2 days off, just so I can
Yeah,
quickly board it if I need to. But I'm going to try and wait
nice.
for the last minute and then go. I don't want to pay in if they're not in it in the final.
Oh, go put in some leave as well then.
Yeah.
Thank you also. Nah, thanks
Sweet,
for coming
horse.
on, man.
No worries. No, cheers, mate. Always a
All
pleasure.
right, also listen out for your podcast. The next one with your preview to the Rugby World Cup, bro. Catch up,
Yeah.
us.
Cheers, mate. Cool.
Ah.
Bye.